All right, let's do it here, guys. It's time for this week's RaceGuru Thunder Hour, and the whole crew is here, and we're ready to rock right here. I'm Sean Engel. You can find me at social media sites at SeanE247. You got Rich the Mexican Batman Maletto, as he typed in his name here today. And then we got the Kingfish himself, Mark Hogan, DFS Marlin, here with us today. So we got ourselves quite the show packed up. But first, how you guys doing today? We got ourselves another Wednesday. We're in July now.
We're in the dog days.
Yeah, the dog days there, or the dog house, I guess, if we're talking about Rich's situation there, dealing with his dogs.
I have an update on that front, Mr. Sean.
Ooh, do tell.
I didn't share it yesterday. So if anyone didn't know, Enzo had a big growth in his mouth. We were basically convinced it was oral cancer. They said there was no signs when they removed a big chunk of it at one point that it was benign. And so we were looking at CT scans. We decided not to do that because they're going to have to put him under again. And we said, hey, we're going to take as much as you can. It seems to be slow growing. Take as much as you can, and hopefully they'll send it off to the pathologist. And on the margins, the very ends, right, where they'll find healthy tissue. If they find healthy tissue, that means they got it all. Well, they ended up taking 4 teeth. Mind you, he's 3 years old. They took 4 teeth, bunch of his gums, and got down in his jawbone. It's the top left. We got word on Monday they did get everything. So that was the first good news. But then on top of that, they tested it, and it was benign. So what it was, we don't know. The good news is it was benign, and we should not have to deal with this again. My first question was, all right, I've seen him eat pellets I put out in the yard to spot stuff, like the mulch and the seed hybrid mix thing with the fertilizer. I was like, I've seen him eat those pellets. Could that have done it? Like, I'm not using it anymore. So they'll know. They're going to do a little bit of looking. But as of right now, we couldn't have gotten better news. So everybody that had thoughts and prayers going our way, we really appreciate it. It was pretty rough. We lost Bosco at 2. So looking at Enzo at 3 going, hey, maybe we get 6 months to a year wasn't ideal, but looks like all things go. It looks like we're getting green flag racing here at Chicagoland too. So good news.
That's a good sign right there. Love to hear that right there. So got Chicagoland this week right here. Mark, what's been new with you, bud?
Oh, same old here. It's great to hear Rich on your side with the dog. And, it was a good weekend of Sonoma racing. Certainly profitable on Sunday. So I felt like I was just off, man. I was telling you right before we went on air here, but first place, I was seeing first place finishes 3/4 through the race, and Chase Elliott spinning out really kind of dampened that for me, but still very profitable weekend. And just getting ready for the 4th, probably going to be shooting off some fireworks here. Take a trip to the fireworks tent down the street tomorrow, throw maybe $500 or $600 and blow some crap up here this weekend.
Love it. Love to hear that. So before we get on into the rest of the show, let's just also address our audience here and let them know that we are from FantasyGuru.com. And if you're not familiar with FantasyGuru.com, they cover many different sports, whether you're playing DFS, betting, or even doing some seasonal fantasy content or leagues. We got you covered here at Fantasy Guru. There's many different packages that are available. You can get the MVP, VIP, Platinum, or all-in packages. Many different packages include multiple sports, lots of bundles, lots of awesome stuff right there. I believe they are still also honoring the 50% off the VIP package if you email support at fantasyguru.com. But I believe this is the last week that they're going to honor that right here. So if you're interested in getting all the other content at fantasyguru.com, go forth, email support at fantasyguru.com right here, right now. You be nice to them about your request. They'll be nice to you. There is also MLB content over there where you can experience all the different kinds of awesome stuff from Ray Flowers, Patio Joe, Scott Bondar, and the rest of the MLB team over there. And the NFL Draft Guide is hard and hitting heavy with content right there as well. So be sure to go forth and check that out as well. But guys, we talked about it a little bit before the show, but how about we get into some detail right here? And react towards what happened with the 2 races this past weekend at Sonoma Raceway right here. So we had an O'Reilly race and we had a Cup Series race. And wouldn't you know it, the same guy won both of them. Shane Van Gisbergen with the weekend sweep right there. So first reactions towards SVG's dominance over the weekend. What did you guys think of that in the race this weekend?
Say as expected, we're calling the bounce back from the get-go on the show last week, and it just, how can you fade SVG 2 weeks in a row? So it was the right play going after him. But to Rich's point, we were talking about it in the O'Reilly Series race, but I think Zilich started 30th in that. Was it 30th in the O'Reilly Series, or was it in Cup? No,
he was 30th in O'Reilly. He started 30th in O'Reilly. He had cut a tire during qualifying. Well, he was officially started 30th, but I believe he actually went to the end of the longest line because they had to change tires, which is not allowed in unapproved changes or whatever. But for people watching, I don't like to chase the guys that get moved to the back, right? But when you start 30th versus 20th, it's significantly different. So for my perspective, once you saw the 30th thing, it didn't matter whether he started technically 36th or 38th or 30th, right?
Yeah. No, and at the end of the day, that became the chalk for the O'Reilly race. And SVG actually kind of went under-owned for that one. I want to say he was less than 50%, where Zilich was close to 80. It was like an absurd number, I feel like, that I was seeing. So O'Reilly race was interesting. Cup was fun, man. I enjoyed it, but at the end of the day, I'm excited to get back to oval racing. I'm excited to move on from the road courses here. We've seen enough for this season.
For the year, there's no more times we're going to be turning right. It's only going to be turning left from here on out, unless you're one.
Not
of the
even in the
series.
Not even in the postseason, though.
Nope. Yes. This was the last road course race of the year for Cup.
Good. We're back. NASCAR's back.
Sign me up. Question mark. Did Zilich actually outscore SVG this week?
I think so. So let me pull it up. I want to say they were both 75 points or something like that, but the difference,
I thought it was close.
It was definitely close, but here's the thing. It's like SVG was like 15,000 and Zilich was what, 11 or 11.5 or something like that.
Yeah, it was a difference of $3,500 in DFS money, right? And that's why he was a strong fade for me, because I wanted to bring this up and get your guys' take, because I guess my point is, in all seriousness, if we could have our druthers, we want to get the most points per dollar spent, right? Like that's ultimately the trick bag, right? And we're trying to use history and insight and all that to kind of predict these things. But knowing what we know now, let's just say it was at the same amount of points, and even 75, just for shits and giggles. You're better off, even to your point we've talked about before, Mark, eating the chalk and getting Zilich even at 80%, because you're getting more bang for your buck. That $3,500 was significant, in my opinion. That moved you, say, from having to use a $6,000 driver to a $9,500 driver, which now puts you in the ballpark with the Jesse Loves, the Sam Mayers, the who else was up in that range there, Sean? Because I know we talked about it briefly. Creed was even below that.
Yeah.
He was cheaper.
Sheldon Creed.
Austin Hill, I think, was in that ballpark.
Definitely,
which he didn't have a great day.
Brent,
I tell you
Austin Green. I mean,
Austin Green. Yep, you could have. I tell you what, depending on who that driver was, Brent Cruz could have become in play for you now. And Brent Cruz was an excellent play as a top 3 finisher, right? Even at his 10,000 or 9,500 or whatever it was. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, no matter how much I may or anyone else feels they know racing, Mark has illustrated to me over the years that give someone like Mark, who understands the strategy of the DFS space in general, some knowledge and background on the sport. And if it's good information, Mark can turn that into a 5-star meal. He can take the carrots and the celeries and the raw chicken, and he knows how to mix and match it properly because of contest building, contest selection, and all those things, right? And I'm learning it's, we say it's about chasing points, not necessarily finishing positions, but like we talked about before the show, sometimes I think we need to pivot that strategy a little bit where maybe finishing position is more important than place differential at certain tracks.
I think it's about
That is very much the case, and I would have to argue that there are certain tracks, and I also think the dominator factor too, as well, with depending on how many laps each track has, also can play a part into that too. Because you deal with tracks that have a high lap count, you're going to want dominators there, and then that can also factor into the driver choices that you want to have too. And when you're dealing with like a road course in comparison, there's going to be less as far as lap count focus right there. And then in turn, you're going to be focusing more on trying to look for finishing position or place differential, depending on how much passing the track can even offer too. And that plays a part into it as well.
And, we talked about some trends before the show, like Mark having some success at certain tracks. And I'm kind of curious how that's going to play out, because as we sit here and talk about it, that's an easy call out, right, Sean? I mean, 75 laps versus 500 laps is significant, right? When we go to Bristol, the dominator is going to get you, they could finish sixth, but they're still, if they lead a bunch of laps, they're going to have 100 and some odd points individually. So when you look at when we look at an NFL cash line, you can say with consistency, it's typically, there are some off weeks, but for the most part, there's a range that you have to be in. And if you're in that range, you're likely. In NASCAR, it's track specific. If you're in that range at Daytona and Talladega, it's here. If you're in that range at Watkins Glen, Sonoma, it's typically here. But even there, I would say it's much more volatile, right? Because depending on how cautions fall, place differential at Watkins Glen this year could be far different than last year, right?
Yeah,
because
it all depends on the conditions.
Fuel strategy, right? Like we saw it playing out earlier this year where SVG said, I'm so fast, I'm pitting, I'm going to run everybody down. Meanwhile, we saw everybody from 1st to 20th, while Shane was coming back on track at 27th or whatever, all were kind of on different strategies. Some of those guys made the fuel work, right? Others ended up losing that top 5 position and ending up back in 20th. And it really was a difference of 2 to 3 laps. Perfect example this week, Taylor Gray. If you had Taylor Gray on Saturday with 3 laps to go, you had to be sitting pretty because he was low owned. He was mid starting, so he had place differential going for him. He had some dominator laps, right, for speed and leading. And then what happened on that last lap? He didn't get credit for it. He ran out of fuel and ended up, instead of finishing top 5, ended up 20 something. Massive swing. Massive swing
Big
for,
time
for
swing.
what? For literally what, people? I mean, 3/4 of a gallon, roughly. I'm doing quick math in my head about how many miles around. I mean, we're talking. I want to say they get around 3 to 4 miles to a gallon, so we're talking less than a gallon of gas. Like what's in my weed eater gallon can out in my garage right now, right? That lasts me all summer.
Might have gotten in there. Yeah. No, I mean, to your point, though, with how unique NASCAR DFS is, you literally have – so, like, going into – last week was a perfect example of Zilich in the O'Reilly race starting 30th changes the whole dynamic of your strategy. It impacts your decision-making on whether or not SVG is going to pay off for that race. So, I think it's a great reminder to know that, like, again – you really, at this point, you can have a blueprint of what different strategies could play out depending on who starts where, but you really can't determine what that ceiling is and what the strategy is going to be until we find out who is qualifying where. It's really a fascinating, a very unique element to NASCAR that I don't think really you see in any other sport.
Oh, that is for sure, too. And even when you think about the road courses in particular, I've been playing DFS long enough that I know what it was like before Shane Van Gisbergen came into the picture and after Shane Van Gisbergen came into the picture. And let me just say this, the strategy plays have been different for sure since then. And he's just even him alone with his dominance at the road courses has made such a difference when it comes to the strategy aspect, because it used to be more evened out where you had drivers more closer together in salary like any other week. But then you get SVG coming along right there, and all of a sudden, he has a much bigger, higher gap in salary, and you have to consider that in mind, too, when coming up with your strategies on these road races.
And I'll add, Sean, just to close that out, at least on my side, is that if you're interested in playing F1 DFS, this race this past weekend was probably the closest similarity or experience that you can have to playing F1 DFS as well. So we got F1 races coming up. If you do want to play something like you did last weekend and you were successful, that might be something to look at for the rest of this year, because we're not seeing it in NASCAR until 2027.
That is for sure. And I mean, you mentioned F1 right there. You can tell how Rich feels about that, especially mentioning F1 right there.
I've dabbled with the F1 on DFS. It's kind of fun. The problem I have with it is it's so hard to differentiate and be competitive, because
it's different now, though.
Well, this year I haven't followed this year. I did hear
they changed the scoring
more wide open. Oh,
yeah, they changed there's more place differential scoring now. It's one by one versus like if you go 5 cars down the grid or 3 cars down the grid, you get this number of X points or whatever. So it's actually a little bit more similar to NASCAR DFS. And then there's a lot more parity, I would say, this season than there has been.
Yeah, I mean,
in the past, because it was basically you had to. Yeah,
go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
Well, I would say you had to pick the team, which it typically was 1 to 2 teams every week that you needed to use every year, and you had to pick the top driver, and so it was always like you just had to get different at the bottom and the middle, and there's only 22 drivers. Like,
yeah,
how much can we really differentiate? We have a hard enough time differentiating in NASCAR, and we got 38 drivers. And the range from A to Z is far less. Like, the numbers, from the top to the bottom in F1 are massive, right? Because everybody wants those top guys and the top teams. That's the challenge I've had with it, is I don't feel like I can be unique enough.
There are hidden treasures in DFS. And I think one exercise that it would at least allow you to do, even if you play for free, just to get a feel for it, is it will teach you that there are opportunities right out there in the open. And it's about looking at the lineup in a different way. Maybe leave some of that spend on the table. Put someone in the captain spot that you don't think will score the most points in your lineup, but will allow you to attain one more guy who can give you 10 more incremental points for your entire lineup in another flex spot. So that it teaches you different kind of strategies and moments of thinking that can maybe even bleed over to NASCAR or even football.
Now, what were you saying, true. Sean? I apologize for cutting you off, buddy.
Nah, it's all good. I was just going to mention about the specific parity right there, too, because even though we know Mercedes has been the dominant team at the top for a good amount of the year, there's still been Red Bull's been competitive, Ferrari's been competitive, Alpine and Williams even have gotten some good results there, too. McLaren, of course. Really, the teams have been closer than ever compared to the past couple of years there, too, since a few years ago when you saw literally Max Verstappen winning every single race right there for the season.
That's what I was referencing, because before it was Verstappen, it was the Ferrari guys, right? So you basically built your lineups around Ferrari and one of the Ferrari drivers, right? To Mark's point, maybe you didn't always go with Leclerc. You went with Saz or whatever because it was cheaper, so it allowed you to add maybe Max into your lineup elsewhere, right? That sort of thing. And then it was like, well, you had to build around Red Bull. And if you didn't use Max somewhere, you were in trouble, right? And it just, I found it not fun from that perspective. Like, one of the challenges I like in NASCAR is the difference in picking Bubba Wallace and Zane Smith, even though pricing may be comparable, could be the difference in cashing or not cashing at all, right? And when you watch the race, both those guys could be competing for a top 5 or a top 10 at different times in the race, right? Like, legitimately. And so for me, it's like, where can we find those gems that maybe people aren't on? And maybe that's just where my mindset is, and I haven't quite figured out how to apply that to F1. Look, I'll give it a shot. You guys are saying the parodies, back, and I'm all for it. So, look, I'll watch any racing. I mean, I'm a degenerate when it comes to racing. I don't care if it's 2 wheels, 4 wheels, dirt, pavement, concrete, a mixture thereof. I do like ovals in general, but I mean, I'm not opposed to turning right and left. Rally car is fun. Not much to really bet on, but I mean, look, man, if it's got a loud motor and goes fast, I find myself watching the drone races. I found myself watching the Red Bull plane races. Like during the winter, I missed the speed channel because I would just turn that channel on. I didn't care if it was snowmobiles, horses. It doesn't matter, man. I must have watched the Preakness 3 times because I love that finish. Same thing with the Derby. Like, I don't know what it is, man. I just enjoy a freaking race.
My wish is that we had IndyCar DFS. Like, if
Yes,
there's enough
please.
interest. They were,
Right?
and McLaren was in the news for them, I think, that today.
Yeah, because they signed Scott Dixon.
There you
Oh,
go.
they did?
Yeah. Yeah, Dixon's going to be driving for McLaren next year. This is his last season with Chip Ganassi after 25 seasons.
Like DraftKings, we run the Truck Series. Can we not do IndyCar DFS? Like, what?
I mean, come on. IndyCar's got to have at least a little more viewership than some of these series. It's got to be in the same ballpark at least. Justifiable.
Yep.
Anyway, getting back to NASCAR right here, even though we were talking about anything with an engine, like the Jimmy Johnson video game right there. So we got a lot of notable finishers. We made a bunch of different calls right here, too, whether it was SVG in first. Rich successfully calling out the runner-up right there with Chase Briscoe getting a top 5 bet in on race day. Or Ty Gibbs in third, who also was looking very fast. At times was the fastest car on the track. I mentioned about Kyle Larson in fourth right there, too, on the show. I was hitting Kyle Larson hard for DFS and betting on the show last week. That worked out pretty good right there. Connor
His
Zilic.
ownership was surprising.
Yeah.
I was very surprised how many people were on him. He was like 53%.
Who was?
Yeah.
Larson.
Oh, he's been top 5 here, and people that top 5 bet people were chasing. And hey, Sean, I don't know if you guys shared on the show, but when I got off last week, I texted you guys and said Brent Cruz top 3.
Yeah, there you go. Called it right there.
And at that point, he still was plus money. By Sunday, he wasn't, or Saturday, but on Wednesday night, he was.
Man.
That was a great call. That was a big one.
Good one right there. Mark was talking up Connor Zilic a lot last week. That worked out pretty well right there, too. I talked up Ryan Preece a lot, and he ended up finishing 8th right there. Good
Top
day
10.
for him. Michael McDowell, both Mark and I talked him up right there. He also hit a top 10 bet right there in the 9th position. I know I didn't have a lot of confidence in the guy that finished 10th at the time, even though I mentioned him as one of my value picks, but Alex Bowman finishing in 10th.
Yeah,
And
that
also-
was
a nice finish.
Yeah. And also, he ended up being the big bracket buster of the in-season challenge right there, for sure. More
But
on that
those-
later. But
Sean, I have to say, though, those 2 calls that you just mentioned, the call that you had on Preece and Bowman, those are DFS tournament winning plays. Like if you had, I was looking at my lineup, and if I didn't do, I think it was like Zane Smith and someone else, I forget who it was. I'd have to pull it up. But instead, I could have done Preece and Bowman at significantly lower ownership, and that would have won everything across the board. That would be $100,000 in my pocket. So I just want to point out, Preece and Bowman, like staring at us in plain sight. And Bowman doesn't make us feel good playing him, but he had some history. Like the tea leaves were there, to your point. And Preece is like being overlooked, basically. He's had the speed all year. So it's like, dude, those are your plays. And we have to like try to remember those types of spots for moving forward.
I feel like ever since he's got into RFK, Ryan Preece has been like the most overlooked driver for DFS, like almost every week.
And his pricing.
It's really crazy how people still aren't catching on to him like that.
Even DraftKings, like FanDuel, the pricing is not going up either. It's kind of mind-blowing, to be honest.
If anything, the crazy thing is that he's been priced down even more this week, which is insane.
I don't get it.
Carson Hocevar ended up finishing in 11th, and I know that was Rich's guy right there.
My bracket's busted.
Yeah, so Chase Elliott finished in 12th right there, too. Brad Keselowski was called out by Mark, and he was a great value pick right there as well, going from 35th to 15th right there. And then
hold on, I am surprised by that too, because dude, he was 11% on FanDuel, and DraftKings was similar type of ownership. I don't know how. I was convinced when we did this show last week, he was going to be chalk. He was going to be the 40-50% play. I am very surprised how far off I was from the field on that one.
Yeah,
the right play. I'm surprised how far off the ownership was from where I expected it to be.
Yeah, truly, because I think they were really going off of the fact that Brad just hasn't been putting up the best results on road courses. And then when he qualifies that far back, definitely is worth taking a shot from there. You got top 20 capable equipment right there. That's a no-brainer call that really the field just ignored.
I mean, he was recording 20+ place differential at Sonoma and like 3 of the past 4 races or something ridiculous like that. $6,000. It's like, how can you not take a shot?
Doesn't qualify too good on the road courses, but that certainly paid off right there too. And one last shout out right there, Zane Smith in 18th right there. He was one of Rich's DFS value picks last week. Ended up scoring some positive place differential, going from 24th to 18th right there.
Yeah, Zane Smith was.
That's the guy I pivoted from. That was the guy I pivoted from because I was worried about the chalky ownership at the low dollar value, and I ended up pivoting to. I should probably look because now I don't know. Of which, I don't know about you guys. I tried to pull up my bracket. I can't pull up what I had. I know what mine busted since I had Bubba, so it's dead. But I couldn't tell you who my other picks were.
Well, on that note, I guess we should put a bow on the discussion for Sonoma right there. But we will do one more Sonoma-related thing technically here, because it's time to get into some trivia for the week. How about that, guys? You ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right. And for those of you that are in our chat right now, go ahead, Rich. What'd you find out?
I would say I faded Zane to play Bubba.
Wow.
That's what I did. And ended up putting Hocevar in there, which actually cost me more because Hocevar lost points finishing 11th. But yet the lineup still cashed. So that was something interesting.
Boom. There you go. All right. Awesome. So if you're in our chat right now, feel free to chime in with the trivia question of the week right here. We want to hear from you. So be sure to leave comments to interact with us as we're live right here. Trivia question of the week. We are talking about road courses right here. So here we go. Shane Van Gisbergen is one of only 3 drivers in NASCAR history to win both an O'Reilly and Cup Series race at a road course in the same weekend. He's also the only one in order to accomplish this on more than one track. So that's a little bit of a hint right there. But can you guys name the 2 other drivers to accomplish this feat right here?
Zilich. I don't know. I can't be right.
I have no idea because I can't see Jeff Gordon running too many Xfinity races. Maybe Dale Sr.'s one because he used to run Busch races.
Kyle Busch.
Martin ran a bunch of Busch races. Kyle Busch could have swept. I could see.
So that. I will say this: that
you got me stumped on this one. Like it would be strictly guesses, Sean.
And it's not AJ Allmendinger, too,
Is Hunter
surprisingly
close?
enough. Well, I'll say this, that the hint is that both of these drivers are racing in cups still right now.
Chase Elliott.
Oh.
It's not Chase Elliott, actually. But I will say that mentioning Chase Elliott is on the right track for one of them.
So Bowman.
It's
All right,
not
Kyle
Bowman.
Larson.
What?
Kyle Larson did. I think Kyle Larson did it, no?
Yep, Rich has got one
Who
of
was
them.
it?
Larson was one of them, and he's the only other one that's
Yep, because I remember
not SPG to last do it.
I would say because I remember him dominating an Xfinity race, and then he went on and won the Cup race too. Was that Sonoma or Watkins Glen?
That was Watkins Glen in 2022 for Larson right there.
Watkins Glen. Okay.
McDowell.
The other driver is one that you wouldn't expect as much because he doesn't have many road course wins.
I think I give up.
Still racing today. Yeah,
Doesn't
I'm at a
have many
loss.
road course wins.
He has road course wins, just not a lot of them.
It's still racing today.
Yeah,
Gibbs.
it is not
And
Gibbs.
he's got a lot.
Not Ty Gibbs. So, all right. So I'll just, what if I give you guys the year that it happened, would it help you right here?
Do it. Let's see it.
Because the other driver accomplished this in
Probably not.
2015.
I'm being honest. You can try.
2015.
Yeah, 2015 was the year that they did it.
Brad Keselowski.
Logano.
There you go. Mark got it right there. It was Logano. Joey Logano.
Joey
did it.
Logano.
Yeah. And
At Sonoma?
At Watkins Glen, actually, as well, too. Actually, SPG ended up being the first person to do a weekend sweep at Sonoma right there, ever.
That was a tough one,
Bye.
man.
He's been throwing some curves. You missed them. Some of them have been pretty tough there, Mark. I've been pretty proud to be close on a couple of them, but he's thrown some. He's been taking lessons from our buddy Dylan, apparently, with the trivia.
When he even popped onto the show right here, I gave him one, and he didn't initially get it right away either. So,
and he's good at that. Like when he's had me on and poses a question, like mad props to our boy Dylan, because I'll put my head against most people on NASCAR trivia, but I'll tell you right now, if you tell me I got to go head to head to Dylan, I'm like, that's gonna be dicey.
Real dicey. But that'll wrap up the trivia of the week there. So the answers was Joey Logano in 2015 at Watkins Glen and Kyle Larson at Watkins Glen as well in 2022. So those were the two to do that right there. But moving onward, let's talk about some news items that have hit the NASCAR scene this week here. We got ourselves another Kaulig Racing free agent truck driver announcement. This time we got another returning face is Colin Braun, who raced in this very truck, the 25, earlier in the year at St. Petersburg, is going to be back racing that same truck at Lime Rock Park right there. So he was the best finishing of the Kaulig trucks in that race right here. But what do you guys think about him heading to Lime Rock in a little over a week here?
I mean, that's going to be a different
I
thing
had higher
than
hopes for him the last time out. So yes, it is. I still have high hopes for him. I think here's the thing. Any of the Ram trucks, though, I think what you're hoping for, a top 10 is a really good finish for those guys. They are consistently 12th to 15th, and I think it's just the lack of speed in the truck. It's a brand new team.
Yeah, so Ram, they're still basically in their first seasons and establishing their own notebook. And as we've seen with teams before that hop into NASCAR, or manufacturers in this case, they always need a good year or two to build up their notebook before they start showing some better performance and hitting the ground running to run more towards top 10 on a regular basis right there too. I mean, you even look towards Legacy Motor Club in the Cup Series right there too. This is like their third season since they rebranded and shuffled things together.
Right.
And now they're starting to show results this year. So there you go. Hunter Blazer in the chat says, I'm excited for Lime Rock 2. Hopefully Heim enters the truck race right there. I do not know off the top of my head if Heim is entering in that particular race. We do know that Heim
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, his schedule is all between Cup and trucks throughout the year. Heim's next Cup start, well, we'll be talking more about that very shortly here soon. So there is that as well. Other than Colin Braun, we got ourselves another we talked about a little bit about Taylor Gray earlier. Well, it just so happens he just ended up signing a 1-year extension with Joe Gibbs Racing in the O'Reilly Series, and he'll be back in the number 54 car for 2027. So, Mark, I know you've been covering the O'Reilly Series and been keeping up with Taylor Gray here. How does this news make you feel, knowing that we are going to see another familiar face back next season?
So I think it's well-deserved, especially for a guy that, I think he had maybe some gray uncertainty. I know Heather Gibbs, I think, was interviewed over the weekend about the extension, and she had mentioned how they just had seen him take another step and become a lot more of a professional. He's grown a lot, and they still basically envision him as a driver on the up and up. So they just think he's a little bit more of a longer term prospect here is what it sounds like to me. But they do feel like we have not seen the best of Taylor Gray. So I think it's, if you read the tea leaves, a good sign of things to come. And, we could be even seeing a lot more consistency from Taylor Gray moving forward, all the more momentum for him. And outside of, like we just talked about with Gray at the end of the last race, it's like outside of the missing 3/4 of a tank, he was in place for a top 5. So at the end of the day, I think there's some nice opportunities here for Taylor Gray in the short term and long term.
Yeah, especially when you consider the fact that he was one of those drivers who was a bit uncertain because this was a contract year for him as well, too. So knowing that he has at least stability for one more year, though, has got to say something. But it is still a 1-year deal, which makes you wonder if he's going to continue to step it up, if Gibbs is going to keep him, or if he's going to walk to another team if they do not like what they see out of him next year.
I mean, she had a lot of praise for him, so it was almost like she kind of made it sound like it was like a grooming situation, but I could be wrong on that.
I'd say we don't have to worry about coach speak in NASCAR for the most part. That is true for drivers and crew chiefs. That is not true for owners. They are full of a lot of coach speak. To Sean's point, I would argue it's a prove-it deal. And the reason I say that, for the success he had in the truck series, in his 2 years so far in JGR equipment that everybody has taken to the front, he has been very inconsistent at best. Now, in all fairness to him, we could have the same conversation about William Sawalwich, who has not really lived up to expectations. So then the question is there a problem at JGR overall? I don't know, because Brandon Jones has really looked elite at times, and other times he hasn't. But when he's looked elite, we haven't really seen it from the other cars, right? Yeah. Although I would argue the speed for Taylor Gray, Taylor Gray. I'm getting him and Tanner confused for some reason. Has been better lately, right? So I think it's more a prove-it deal. I saw that interview with her because, basically she took over for Coy because, Joe Gibbs' plan was to leave the team to his sons. They're no longer with us, sadly. And, Coy was one of his sons that, mentioned that she would be a good fit. I'm curious of how this plays out. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but one of the things I've already been kind of watching with JGR is the fact that I feel like they've started to lose their dominance in the O'Reilly series. I feel like right now, JRM is the class and everyone else is catching up to them. and JGR's not as far behind, but I don't know that RCR is behind JGR. I think maybe those two teams at the O'Reilly level are kind of on par. So I'm kind of curious, because it's just like when Rick Hendrick lost his engine builder at the Martinsville plane crash. It was 2 years later before you really saw that show up on the track. Things are slow going in NASCAR, because when you find something, you just stay with it. It's not until you don't find that next thing and everybody else does that you find yourself chasing. So I'm kind of curious what her leadership is, because Joe has seemed to have taken a step back. I think Joe did a good job of getting the right people, but when I happened to have a chance to talk to Joe Gibbs years and years ago at Carrabba's, it was very clear to me at that time that JD and Coy were wide the team. Yeah, I worked at Carrabba's. I waited tables. I almost ran over his
and
wife.
You met him there?
A tray of drinks. Didn't see Mike. Yeah, I have a signed autograph book, because dude, I had a conversation with Carl Edwards thanking him for carrying my fantasy team when everyone laughed at me for spending buku bucks on him. He thought that was hilarious. Met Michael Dean Perry. As a Cleveland Browns fan, I got to ask Michael Dean Perry about what it was like to leave Cleveland and all of that. That was a cool conversation. The Carrabba's in Huntersville was a hotbed for some fun stories, dude. I got to meet some cool people waiting tables at that Carrabba's. I'm not going to lie. Robbie Gordon, Jamie McMurray, Elliott Sadler.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
Ray Evernham, when he was dating, what's her name? Before it was, it was kind of known about them, but it was still kind of taboo. What was her name? Shauna Robinson.
Aaron Crocker?
Right? No, not Shauna Robinson. Aaron. Yeah.
Aaron Crocker.
Nice. She's super nice, but boy, talk about robbing the cradle there, Mr. Ray Evernham. I got firsthand. I was waiting on that table. I got firsthand knowledge of that shit.
Yeah, there you go.
Mark just laughed. But yes, my point being is, I'm very curious to see how it goes.
I do think
it was
it's
a real popular joint, dude. A lot of football players came in there.
I do think it's very interesting also when you look towards their point situation in the O'Reilly series for Gibbs. Right now, you got Brandon Jones being the highest up in the standings, even though he doesn't have a win. But then you have Brent Cruz right now second in line for the team, who has the best average finish of the 4 JGR drivers, even despite not winning. But that's also just because he missed the first 4 races of the year due to the age limit.
First 4.
And then you have Taylor Gray and William Sawalich fighting for that last spot in the chase right there. And both of those drivers each have 1 win this season.
Yeah, I do just think Taylor Gray has shown a lot more consistency.
And I tell you what, and to your point, Cruz has been the best of the bunch. And at this point in the season, when we look at the data, we got to note the missed races, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right? Interestingly enough, Brandon Jones has had 2 wins taken away. Like, he legitimately should have 2 wins under his belt this year in the O'Reilly series. And he got jobbed. One was a caution and one was a pit stop. But the 19 and the 20. Now, we've talked about this before, Sean. Is there something to be said about the garage? Are the 54 and the 18 out of one garage and the 19 and 20 out of a different one? Or I don't know how that breaks down. I know how it breaks down at HMS at the Cup level, but I don't know how it breaks down for JGR at the O'Reilly level. But it makes me wonder into this at all.
Yeah, there could be something to that right there. There's been a lot of teams before that have usually paired up. If it's a 4-car organization, they usually pair 2 of the different teams up together in order to share info and setups and work closer together than the other pair right there. And we can even see it right there that one pair of teammates right there has been succeeding more than the other, at least as far as competing for wins is concerned. So there you go. All right, so we'll just get into.
I'm trying to see if I can find something that tells us who's with which, or who's with who. I don't know, but
yeah,
we'll see. I think it's a prove it deal. I had a lot of hopes. I talked very highly of Taylor in the Truck Series. I'll be honest, I'm disappointed with what we've seen, and I'm more impressed with Brent Cruz at this point. I'm on the Brent Cruz train at this point.
100%.
Besides, we also do know that JGR is going to have another ARCA driver waiting in the wings too before we know it as well too, with Max Reeves right there.
No one's
I
interested
forgot
in
about
Natalie
Max
Decker.
Reeves. That's a good call out. That is a very good call out. No, but you know who I am interested in, and he hopped in a 410? Wyatt Miller.
Oh, yeah, that's a very interesting name to bring up.
We know he's going to have a ride available with the top team, because maybe Junior talks Justin Allgaier to sticking around a couple more years, but if he does, they're going to be grooming Miller for that ride.
Yeah, exactly right there. It's like all these teams are kind of building up these young drivers to eventually take a ride right there. Max Reeves for JGR right there. Wyatt Miller, you mentioned, for JRM. We also know that RCR is building up Carson Brown in order to eventually take one of those rides there too. And Tristan McKee is being built up for a Spire ride at some point too, which Michael McDowell has also mentioned in interviews as well too. So a lot of young talent being built up right here.
Look, we're I don't think people realize this, but we're about to be spoiled with Connor Zilich, Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar, Brent Cruz, potentially Lane Riggs, I think, is a name we need to be talking about here very, very soon. That's not including the likes of Wyatt Miller, who, if you're not familiar, Mark, that is Dale Jr.'s nephew. And he's got a little bit of his granddaddy in him. He's kind of fun to watch. He's that's not including Keelan Harvick and Brexton Busch, who are clearly on early trajectories. So not too near off history here. We're going to be talking about Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott being the old veterans, the squirrely vets like Denny Hamlin, while we're watching some of these young guys. I mean, Corey Heim, I've been griping it's been too slow, but Ty Gibbs, Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar, these guys are all in their early 20s. We potentially got 20 years of these guys competing, and this is why I love Heim and Hocevar hating each other. Like, this is like the utmost dream for me. Like we were talking about Joe Gibbs. One of the things I told him and his wife was, I take a lot of pride in finding these guys early on and jumping on and like watching them come up, right? And she goes, you sound just like JD. That's exactly what he likes to do. Well, that was a pretty proud moment, because if I can be anything like JD, I would love to find the talent like he did. And look, he's a much nicer human than I could ever be. And he was a grade A person. It was really unfortunate for his early untimely passing. But I love this shit. And so to be as a guy that was like all about Hocevar 3 years ago and all about Heim, the fact that they hate each other and they're going to have a rivalry, this is like godsend, man. Imagine being on the Dale Sr., Jeff Gordon bandwagon before other people were. Oh my God, dude. I'm just ready to sit back and eat and drink and watch the fans hate each other, as I'm just like, we got good racing. Let's go. Let's bring it. I mean, when Heim turned Hocevar, I was yelling at the TV. I was like, oh, Hocevar finally got a taste of his own medicine. He's going to be salty. I love it.
Yeah.
And I like Hocevar. I don't mind what he does.
That's great stuff.
I'm in for the show, guys.
Yeah, they are going to put a show, and we're going to get years of that show. It's going to be awesome. Oh,
I've got a lot of friends out of that one too.
It's so awesome, dude. Like I haven't been right.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I haven't been this excited in a long time, guys.
Yeah. It's great to see it all pay off right here. But let's actually move on and give a quick little update right here regarding the NASCAR in-season challenge. So NASCAR themselves have posted that for the second year in a row, nobody has a perfect bracket. All the brackets have been busted right there on the first race again.
And it's not even a 64-team bracket.
Guess no one gets the $1 million again this year. The second year we're doing it.
Yeah, so NASCAR themselves tweeted that out right there. So
they really need to just give $1 million to whoever has the best bracket. Like, actually give it to a fan. Give it to someone who's doing these brackets and who's participating and, does make all the great calls and just, didn't miss that one matchup. Yeah, I was pissed, man. I had Ty Dillon, and he almost upset Hamlin again until the very end there.
Even though Hamlin was running much better than expected for road course standards, that's for sure.
Yeah. He almost had him, and then at the end he fell back in the last 20 laps there.
So also within that same tweet, they also mentioned that 154 of the 75,000 plus entries that they had picked 15 of the 16 matchups correctly. So a really tiny percentage even got 15 out of 16, which is nuts to think.
Yeah. Well, I guess next year, if they do it.
Yeah. But either way, the challenge still rolls on in real life, despite our brackets all being busted. But let's just keep it rolling right here. It's time to get into our little Chicagoland preview right here too. So this is the first time in a couple of years that we are visiting this track. We got ourselves a nice little oval track right here, and this oval track has drawn some comparisons to the Kansas Speedway of all places right here too. So if that gets you excited, well, it should, because Chicagoland used to bring some real great racing right here, which I'm sure Rich right here is very familiar with some of the better finishes that Chicagoland has put on before.
Well, not only that, did you guys see the tire report for this weekend?
From what I saw, it's going to be tough. We're going to run through tires pretty quickly with the different asphalt surfaces.
So they are using the same tire they used at Pocono, Michigan, and Nashville. And I don't know if you guys recall those races, but all three of those races, tires were a topic throughout the races in general areas. We saw quite a few tires blow at Michigan. Pocono, we had some weird ones. Nashville was different. Granted, it's the concrete, but I guess my point in all of this, tire management's going to matter this week. This is a very worn out track. It hasn't been raced on, but it's been weathered. It's been around for years. This track is going to, I suspect, let me put it to you this way. I will not be shocked, guys, if tires are a major concern in practice, and it does get better as we get to the race, as rubber gets put down on the track. I'm kind of expecting that, if we're being honest. But that said, they had plenty of practice at those other three venues, and tires were a topic. So give me the guys that know how to do some tire management. And, we didn't talk about this, but we've talked about SVG getting better at the ovals. If you go back and look at some of his better oval runs, I'm starting to wonder if it's a tire management thing that SVG is doing better than his teammates. Because it started dawning on me when I started looking at the tire package and the races and all that. He's been pretty savvy around the top 10 at all the places where tires have been an issue.
Yeah, that's a good call out right there, especially when it comes to tire management. And there's another factor that also points towards the direction of Shane Van Gisbergen to maybe have a better than average result for an oval this week too, because we also got extended practices this week. So more practice time for all the drivers on Friday right there.
Good. Love it. Tells me they're worried about tires too, or they wouldn't do that. That means they're also going to have extra tires, because they're not going to make them have one set of tires for all the extended practice. Freddie Kraft can EAD. Give me that practice. He says it's not needed. I call BS.
Well, also because it's a track that most of the drivers have not seen, believe it or not, too. And, NASCAR's policy for any time we go to a track where not many drivers outside of a drafting track have seen. So big 50-minute practice right there. Everybody's going to get their time in order to experiment with setups, and that benefits a driver like SVG right there.
Have we driven the next-gen car at this track yet, Sean? Was there one race at Chicagoland with the next-gen car?
No, this is the first one.
This is what I fear. So this is one thing I'm going to talk about in the article because there's not going to be much data. I'm going to pull the loop data, but I'm cautioning everybody now to do not read into the loop data much. Like, I'm half tempted to not post it because I don't want to mislead people. There's going to be a bunch of loop data, and it's going to be super misleading for two reasons. One, it's not the car we're running. Two, that means guys like SVG is going to have zero data because he's only been running the last couple of years. And that's true for anybody. Like, Tyler Reddick's data is going to be skewed because since he's been with 2311, he's never been there. Even Kyle Larson's is going to be skewed because of his hiatus at one point fell in that range. Like,
none of
raw data
Kyle
for
Larson's
this week
starts
is not
came
gonna matter.
while he was at Hendrick. They were all when he was with Ganassi.
Because he had that, he got in trouble, and then by the time he came back to Hendrick. So right there. And those are two guys that Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson that I think need to be on our radar this weekend. 1.5 miles. The speed's been there for both these guys. I mean, look, we all know Hamlin's going to be the favorite. And look, he should have more knowledge. He has raced this in the old car. He's with the same team. There's a lot of continuity there for him. But, Sean, am I crazy to say that 4 years of not being at a track almost makes your track notes, I wouldn't say trash, but
they
don't
not
carry
just
as much
4
weight.
years,
I mean,
Rich. It is 7 years. The last time, 2019.
Oh, shit. I can't do math. My apologies, Sean. Thank you for clarifying. 7 years. Man, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you now, I'm not putting loop data up. It's not going to matter. You guys are going to look at loop data, and it is going to do nothing but confuse you. We're not doing it. I will have a caveat in the notes this week. There is no loop data. We're not doing it. That 7 years this is a different track, man.
It's going to be
weathered.
interesting.
To be honest,
And
I
you
think
know what?
the data
I
from
think Tyler's
Kansas
gonna be
probably is more relevant.
Yeah, I would argue it definitely
I think you're
is,
right,
Mark.
Mark. I would say Kansas would work. I think that is a fair statement. And honestly, drivers that did well at Pocono and Michigan, I think we need to know. I'm going to go back. I told the wife that I really wish I had the time to watch this year's Michigan race, this year's Nashville race, and this year's Pocono race all back to back to back, just to get an idea of which drivers had some fast times, who were managing tires well, to see if there's an overlap between all three, because they're three very distinctly different tracks, right? Concrete, short, triangle, super unique. Nothing's the same, nothing's symmetrical. And Michigan, which borderline drafting, right? So if we see a couple of drivers that did well on this, that tells me they have type a tire or this setup on the tire, and we should take note of that. And so I'm going to try to dig what I can out of that.
Oh, yeah. So there you go right there. But overall, we do have a few races right there. And I will say that it does end up putting a lot of emphasis on Mr. Denny Hamlin right there in particular, because of how good he's been in all those races you've just mentioned here too. And on top of that, if you even want to talk about experience at this track, nobody in the active field has driven more races at this track than Denny Hamlin right there too. But I'll get a little bit more deeper into it right here before we know it here. Before we continue onward, let's get into the list of the notables and part-timers right here too.
Well, I just want to add too, we're looking at 267 laps. So from just like an overall strategy standpoint, 1 to 2 dominators from what I've seen over the last 5 races at Kansas, the last 5 races, even at Chicagoland, if you want to go that far back, that's typically what we're seeing. We're seeing 1 guy dominate, maybe 2, probably 5 to 8 drivers recording lead laps at some point. So 1 to 2 dominators, in my opinion. I think it depends on starting position as far as what direction you go, but I think if you take those 1 to 2 and you put in 2, it's going to have to be those guys at the top that we just talked about.
Yeah, there you go. So that's going to be good to keep in mind right there. Thank you for laying that out, Mark. Let's get into the part-timers and notables for this week right here. We got some interesting names in the O'Reilly series there, Mark. How about you read us off those names right here since you're covering that race?
Yeah, we've got a nice long list of in the O'Reilly series. Cole Custer in the number 0 for SS Greenlight Racing, Connor Zilich in the number 1 for JRM, Carson Kvapel in the number 9 for JRM, Raja Caruth in the number 32 for Jordan Anderson Racing. It's been interesting to see Caruth kind of go back and forth between the teams this year. JJ Yelly in the number 38 for RSS Racing, Garrett Smithley in the number 42 for Young's Motorsports, Dawson Cram in the number 47 for Mike Harmon Racing, Tyler Tomasi in the number 53 for Joey Gase Motorsports, and Joey Gase for the number 55 at Joey Gase Motorsports, Nick Sanchez in the number 87, Peterson Racing. Interesting to see Nick Sanchez with another appearance. He's, I feel like, fighting for his life to gain his relevance back here a little bit. Chase Elliott in the number 88 for JRM. So JRM is loading it up this weekend. Myatt Snyder in the number 91 for DJM Racing, and Leyland Honeyman Jr. for the number 92 for DJM as well.
So, yeah, we got an interesting list over there for the O'Reilly race this week. Always noble when we have one of the Cup Series drivers step down, and there's a few of them right there with Custer, Zilich, and Chase Elliott right there in the 88 car, right? Elliott is going to be tagged as an immediate favorite for this race there too, especially because he's one of the couple of drivers that actually has experience in the O'Reilly car at this track still to this day. And if there's one thing that I will mention about the O'Reilly races, that while the Cup Series car has changed, the O'Reilly car certainly has not really changed right there. So if you did want to use old data from years ago in order to help make some relevant picks right there, you certainly can have more of an argument to do so with the O'Reilly series compared to Cup.
That makes Custer interesting, I think, in my opinion as well. But Elliott, I mean, like you said, he's a guy we have to consider for Cup. So, that little tidbit of him having some of that prior experience, I think, could be the difference maker here as well.
Oh, yeah, it is very big. And you got to keep this in mind there too, Mark, that there are a number of drivers actually in the O'Reilly series, only a few of them that actually do have some prior race experience right there. And that is going to be huge when you consider that right there too.
The veteran experience. And you know what? That car has been really fast as well this year. So driving a nice car, Chase Elliott, a talented driver with some experience on the track, it's going to be hard to not go with.
Oh, that is for certain right here. So let's get into the Cup Series list right here as we now get Rich Maletto back here. We got JJ Yaley in the number 44 for NY Racing. Josh Bilicki in the number 66 for Garage 66. Now, those two names aren't exactly going to be that impressive, but the one name we do want to actually put a spotlight on is he's back again in the number 67, Corey Heim. So we got ourselves the fourth 2311 car in play this week here. So that makes 39 entries for 40 total spots. Everyone will make the race, and in the O'Reilly race, 38 entries for 38 spots. So everybody's making that race right there too. So there you go. That's all the nobles and part-timers right here. And before we get into the picks, just as a reminder, we are part of FantasyGuru.com. So if you don't know much about FantasyGuru.com or you like the content you're hearing here, go forth and get any of the packages over at FantasyGuru.com. MVP, Platinum, VIP, or all-in options are available. We got MLB content also available in season right here, too. The MLB team's been absolutely killing it lately right there. And the NFL draft guide is available for those getting themselves prepped up for NFL season. Hit up support at FantasyGuru.com to get the best possible deals that you can get. You be nice to them. They'll be nice to you. And, well, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Please feel free to leave comments as we're live right here, too, and we're going to get into the picks here. and because we like hearing from you. And also, if you're watching this on replay, we appreciate you too. So now let's get on into it right here. Top price picks to watch for Chicagoland. Mark, how about you start us off here and tell us what you think is to watch for Cup here?
Yep. So Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell make up my top three. So Larson and Hamlin, for me, again, I was comparing it to Kansas data, and these guys have the most laps led over at Kansas here in the next gen car. They're also guys who have raced here in the past. Like Rich said, this is a little bit of a different comparison, but veteran drivers that we know can handle the long run. I think the long run is going to be a really important concept in addition to the tires here for this race. So, we know Denny is probably the fastest car on the long run right now. So I think that element has to be considered. And then I threw out Christopher Bell because even though he's got the wrist thing going on, he figured it out at Sonoma. And it's like, if he figured it out at Sonoma, this is going to be a lot easier, I think, on the wrist, doing an oval race like this where he's just turning left the whole time. He just has to get into a rhythm. And Christopher Bell has great numbers when it comes to Kansas and some of these other mile-and-a-half tracks. So give me those three. I think JGR in general in the Cup Series is going to be the team to beat. Is going to, Toyota, probably the manufacturer to get after here. But to Rich's point, veteran drivers, I shouldn't say veteran drivers, but guys who know how to manage their tires on a surface like this, because I think that's going to be the most challenging part, is how the surface changes and how these guys try to navigate up and down the track.
Well, that does also happen to fit veteran drivers too, right there, Mark. Even if you went with that part of the statement, you still would have been correct about that.
Yeah, but the only reason why I corrected is like I don't want to get in the mindset of only old guys, because some of the old guys might not be very good at managing tires too. So like we also have to like actually look at their track record on these types of tracks and how well they do in these types of situations.
To Mark's point, it's not. I love Kyle Larson, and he's good on worn out tires, but he's not good at managing tires. I mean, Brad Keselowski is, Denny Hamlin is, right? Joey Logano, I don't know if he's great at managing it, but he's great on worn out tires, right? Like he knows how to drive it. But I get what you're saying, Mark, because it's the same thing. I don't want to just everybody to assume find the old timers and you're good, because that's not necessarily the case. Whereas, excuse me, we saw Chase Briscoe at Bristol a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He actually does a decent job of managing his tires. Corey Heim is really good. This is something that I know we've talked about it. Corey Heim got my attention at an ARCA race in Elko I was at. This just goes to my point. I should probably go to these local tracks more where ARCA and stuff runs and start watching, because I see these things and I talk to, Mike Bliss was in the stands. I got to talk to him. That guy knows way more than I ever would, right? I mean, he's a Cup driver at one point. But Heim is really good at managing tires. That showed up this past weekend, right? So, and SVG, I think we got to be careful sleeping on him this week. The fact that a bunch of the garage hasn't been here, that puts him on par with these guys, right? And if he's good at managing tires, no, man, I think SVG might be a sleepy hound for us this weekend.
And for the record there, to your point, Rich, every time that we've been to a track that's had an extended practice, SVG has been better than the average results too.
Right.
So there you go with that. As far as top price drivers that I like this week, give me Denny Hamlin, of course. I mean, Hamlin's going to be the guy to beat this week right here. Give me Kyle Larson. This actually was a really good track for Larson, even in the Ganassi days right there, too. I know different car right there, but he's also one of the more experienced drivers as far as figuring out the layout of this track. And he's actually been one of the more consistent drivers at the 1.5 miles this season. So give me some of the number 5 right here. And the last driver here is going to be a bit more of a surprising pick, but I kind of have a bit of a gut shot feeling here about Chase Briscoe in particular right here.
I love it.
So Briscoe, he also ended up finishing in the top 5 over at Kansas earlier in the year. He has shown some pretty good speed at times, and he's in a JGR Toyota, and those Gibbs Toyotas are going to be really bad fast this week right here too, especially because they've been the team to beat pretty much on the 1.5 miles as well too.
I love it. I happen to love Larson this week in general. Honestly, I happen to think that because we haven't been here, Denny doesn't have the benefit of some of the recent history. We know how now the extended practice, I think, helps Hamlin because he's really good at figuring out how the car should feel and setting it up. We saw that at Michigan. I mean, he was running half a second to 0.7 seconds faster than everybody else on worn tires. Like, that was insane, right? And he just kept getting better. And he was having fast lap times, too. I think this track, to your point, Sean, even though we haven't been here in a while, because the 5 has started to get that balance figured out with the nose, I tell you what, man, they're not far away. We are this close to seeing HMS between the 5, the 24, and the 9 start rattling off some top 5s and some potential win runs. This is the time of the season we start to see when those things catch up. At the end of July, I will be shocked if we aren't saying, boy, watch out for those HMS cars.
Denny Hamlin himself even mentioned that a few weeks ago when we were racing at, what was it, either Pocono or Michigan, he said that the HMS cars are catching up and watch out. He's not wrong about that.
He knows. Look, Denny's good at noticing patterns. I mean, he really is. And, man, I just don't get the hate he gets. I really don't. But to each their own. We all hate different things. So, Mark, I'm 100% with your comment there. I think Briscoe, look, I felt good about Briscoe. I couldn't believe he was plus 240 on odds. I couldn't believe that last week. Like, that shocked me considering how well he ran last year. And we about saw the same darn thing play out. He was the one guy running down SVG at the end of the race again, right? Like, I mean,
he got even
shame
closer.
on me. Shame on me for not pushing top 3. F you, Rich. You should have pushed the top 3. I don't like when we narrow down those. I like plus odds when I've got a couple of outs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like playing poker where, dude, I could catch an ace or I could catch a 9 here and I'm in really good shape. I'll play that, right? I've got more than one out. So I hate going after the one win guy in top 3s. I just got to get more comfortable. We're calling the speed, guys. All 3 of us are hitting the speed. We just, like you said, Mark, earlier, we're just this close to tying it all together. I mean, your cheat sheet 2 weeks ago was spot on. It just, Austin Hill misread the corner by literally this much, and it took out the top 3 guys and destroyed lineups.
Yeah, there you go. Man.
That's racing, though, right? Like, that's why
it happens.
That's why I have a real hard time saying go get SVG at minus 250. It's just too juicy. If we had caught a live line like Sean found at the naval base where it was even money, all for it. If you're going to give me 1-to-1, I'm all for it. But for me to have to eat some of that profit back when a cut tire that's not their fault, or a manhole cover comes flying up, or a track comes apart, or the rain hits a corner, and now we have a weird caution that totally screws up fuel mileage. I mean, there are so many variables that just don't come up in football and basketball that do in racing that I'll be the first to admit, guys, if you want to drink the juice, I'm not going to stand in your way, but I can't push it. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, there's just a lot of, moments where it can just flip the entire field, and all of a sudden the race has been turned over on its head because they're, like you said, a caution or a weather delay or one wreck that takes out 19 drivers. Like, there's so many different things.
But we can live bet at that point, right? Like, that's why I've been like, let's really look at the live bets, because when that happens, and maybe the idea is that's a good way to hedge, right? Like, if we feel really good about Hamlin and Larson, maybe we hit the early lines, because we all know if they qualify and run well in practice, the lines are going to get smaller, right? So maybe we hit the early lines on the guys and we freeze, right? Hit a couple of top 5 or top 10 lines we like and hold. Don't put more than 4 or 5 bets out there, low dollars, getting, plus money return. And then come race day, we hone in a little bit. We wait to see how the race is going, and we have an idea. I mean, here's something else for people that like to watch patterns. Whoever dominates to start with, don't assume that's the guy. We have now seen that the last 4 weeks, the top car for that first, third, they were good, but they were a top 5 finisher, not a winner.
Yeah, so with that in mind right there, too, it's good points to keep in mind right here. But overall, let's be sure to keep it rolling right here. Rich, I believe you didn't mention all your top price picks there. Who do you got this week?
Hamlin, Larson, Reddick. I'm boring. Those are the guys that I think we can count on, and those are the guys I'm feeding. I do love the Briscoe call. Just for the record here, I'm giving Sean extra prop tips. I like the Briscoe call. We know we've been using him in a lot of my bets this year, but I want those 3 guys. Hamlin, Larson, Reddick. Right now, you pin me to a corner. Those are my favorite guys to win as well.
So Steve Hancock in the chat, he also is kind of with you on Reddick, though. He said that he likes 45 in order to win the race, and then Jordan wins Chicago right there.
He's all into the Michael Jordan motif here. The 23, the Bubba Wallace. He's 100% in on the Chicago fandom to go with the race. Steve, I'll be the first to tell you I like chasing storylines, but I'm not buying the Jordan one necessarily this weekend. Although it's a good angle.
Yeah.
Although Steve also said he's got no sound.
Yeah. So no sound is definitely an odd issue right there. So
log out, log back in.
Yeah. Try to refresh over there. And that's good advice for anybody that happens to be watching the stream and is having issues, just to give it a nice little refresh right here. I mean, Rich did that not too long ago, and now he's looking clean and crisp right here. So there you go. It
looks better.
Yeah, it sounds better too.
So appreciate the call out on that, Mark, because I had to be frustrating. So thank you. Are we on mid-tier, guys? You guys want to go, or did I miss that too?
Nah, we're on mid-tier now. So you want to go first with this here?
Sure. It's always Heim time. So I'm going Heim. I do like Eric Jones. I know we didn't see it from the road courses, but look, Sean alluded to this earlier. Legacy has found something over the last month and a half to 2 months. And both John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones have started to show up, particularly on the ovals. I'm digging a little Eric Jones love, although I will say that for this week, I kind of like the stars and scrubs approach. I'm curious to see how Mark does it, but I'm kind of digging the bottom guys. I feel like there's some massive values for us, and I really like the top guys. The guys in the middle, I'm kind of met on. It's always Heim time. Eric Jones is trending right, but I think we can maybe get kind of similar points for some cheaper guys. And my last one is Buescher because, well, gosh darn it, he didn't get us the top 10 this past week, but he's still Mr. Top 10 in my book.
Yeah, there you go. So, Mark, Rich said he really wanted to hear your picks and process with this tier. So how about you let us know who you got here?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with Chris Buescher. Top 10, Mr. Top 10, we see him do pretty well in similar tracks. And at the end of the day, a veteran, consistency, he's the staple of RFK, quite frankly, the most consistent guy on that team and consistent driver on the track. Consistency is really the term to throw out there when we talk about Chris Buescher and racing. So $8,700 on DraftKings, in my opinion, that's a little bit of a steal, quite honestly. And we could see some good place differential. Outside of that, Ross Chastain, I think, the images of him riding the wall, I think in Charlotte or whatever that is. I think that was Martinsville. Okay. Well, I don't know. I have a feeling with the type of track this is, we're going to see some aggressive contrarian strategies come out. And Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, like those are the guys that come out on these types of tracks and go with something super odd and different. And I feel like we could see some of that with Ross Chastain here for this week. So give me some Ross Chastain. I think he's a very interesting option. And then round that out with a little Brad Keselowski, someone who, on comparable tracks might not qualify the best, but he records a lot of place differential and still a pretty nice discount. It's not like we're getting the discount on him that we did from last week, But I do think that he is still in play as well. And I do like the RFK kind of stacking approach in general for this week.
Just a little shout out to Mark.
Man.
I was very close to using Ross. Like, I've got this weird gut feeling thing about Ross. So the fact that you called him out, Mark, I'm gonna have to relook. It was one of those where I tell OGB, it's one of those feelings where I'm like, am I feeling it because I feel like something bad's gonna happen, or am I feeling it because I feel like we're turning the page? And I wasn't. I'm on the fence here. So between Sean's Briscoe and your Ross Chastain, might have to build a lineup with those guys.
So, and I will say the way this is like shaping out is when you're talking about stars and scrubs, I would agree with you that it's close to a stars and scrubs approach. But I think we can fit one mid-tier option in our lineups. And I think that's the preferred route. Like, I really think it's 1 to 2 dominators versus 2 to 3.
Okay.
In this type of format. And so with 1 to 2, we've got a spot for a mid-tier option in my opinion.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I do agree with the fact that a mid-tier driver is going to probably be necessary for success this week. As far as the drivers that I have in this tier, you guys pretty much mentioned all of them right here, but I'll mention the names right here too. So I'm very much on Chris Buescher this week. He's probably my favorite driver overall from this tier. This has just been a track he's had experience at before. He's been a consistent top 10 contender right there at these 1.5-mile intermediates. RFK has been pretty good on these types of tracks as well, which also means that I'm very much into Brad Keselowski as well too. And Brad is a former winner at this track right here too. Now that was with an entirely different team at the time, but Brad, as one of the more experienced drivers, he's good at tire management as well too. Give me some of that number 6 driver right there. Then I have technically a split pick right here between DraftKings and FanDuel right here. That's going to matter for later when I mention my cores, just as a little teaser right there. But for FanDuel lineups, give me some Heim time and some Corey Heim love right there too. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Rich, as far as using Heim this week. But boy, it is quite a difference with him between the DraftKings and the FanDuel salaries for Heim, because on DraftKings, he's 7,500 right there, but on FanDuel, he's 6,800, which is a bigger difference than you might think compared to the two sites as it is, because that practically puts Heim in value pick territory right there as well. And then for DraftKings, give me some Eric Jones right there too. So again, I'm sharing another pick with you, Rich. I do think that the 43 driver is going to be one of the more overlooked drivers. And also, I really do know that the 43 team has found some more speed as well, too, as mentioned. So give me some Eric Jones right there, too. He looked like one of the few cars that was even in the same zip code as Denny Hamlin when he went on to dominate and win by 11+ seconds over there at Michigan there.
I love it. I'm with you, man. I'm trying to contain my Heim excitement. You know, we had the party already, so to speak. But I think Heim's a better driver than Bubba Wallace and Riley Herbst, Sean. And Bubba Wallace has been a top 10 guy at most of these tracks, right? Like,
he's been top 10 in almost every single mile and a half this season, referring to Bubba Wallace there.
Right. And so I'm trying not to get over my skis on this, guys, but I won't be shocked if Heim has a top 5. I don't know that I want to go chase a bet on it, but, you know, the wife tried to get me to chase a plus 10,000 bet, you know, last week, and I wouldn't do it. So or, you know, at the naval base, I don't know, man. This is where I struggle, where I don't want my fandom to get in the way of logic and sense. And we all know that I've been pushing this Heim narrative for so long, right? Like, it's almost to the point where I'm almost overcompensating, going, Jen, there's no way he can win that race, right? And not betting it. But then as we saw it play out, we could still get 4-1 or 40-1 or whatever the hell it was. You know, I was all for it. But look, it's another track where there's not a lot of experience. So Heim kind of has Heim and SVG
like a level playing field.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's more level than where else we go. The old school notes aren't going to matter. The old car, like, I don't know, man. I may have to talk to the wife and see if I can, come to terms with my heart on this one. But I love Heim this week. I think this is a very legitimate top 5, top 10 driver this week at a cheap price point. The equipment is there, and we've seen it.
Yeah, Steve is right there with you as far as 2311 is concerned. So, yeah, really, there's
I told
a
you
lot.
Steve, your sound must not have been working because I said Steve is on the Chicago narrative. He is, and I chase narratives for betting, so I'm all for it. I'm just not sure I buy it, but I'm with you, Steve. I mean, it's a good storyline, bro.
Yeah, it really would make a great storyline, that's for sure. But how about we go forth and talk about sleepers and values right here, too. Let's get this section of DFS out of the way right here, too. So I have a couple drivers that I want to talk about, and I think this tier is very interesting this week. First of all, give me the name that you guys love to hear me utter out the most on this show, and I hyped him up earlier as the most overlooked play probably of the past 2 seasons. Ryan Preece, we're rolling it back right here too. So yes, this means I am definitely 100% with Mark's strategy for a full RFK stack this week there too. So definitely give me some Ryan Preece right there. I also have another split pick here between DraftKings and FanDuel. I like both of these drivers equally, but I think price-wise, they're a little more efficient on each particular site. Now, for DraftKings, give me some Zane Smith right there. And for FanDuel, give me some Riley Herbst as well as a value. One other driver that I'm going to, well, technically, yeah, my last real pick here is the pick under 6K for DraftKings, and that's John Hunter Nemechek. So following it up with some more love to Legacy Motor Club right there with JHN as well. Give me some of that. I think he's going to likely be one of the better finishers in that range for sure. So give me some of that. But I was between him and another driver for that particular slot, and I'm going to give the other driver a shout out too. I'm going to say an honorable mention to Austin Dillon as well. He's also a driver that has his fair share of top 20 finishes on the 1.5 miles this season. And that's also a range he used to commonly finish here at Chicagoland as well, too. So Austin Dillon, I think, is another name that we should not fully overlook this week, too.
He actually has had speed the last couple of weeks. I got to give them credit. RCR's found a little something.
For sure.
Makes me wonder if Kyle Busch had gotten him pointed on the right track and they kind of figured something out, because they were definitely working on something with the crew chief change and all that. And by the way, can I say something? Fuck you, NASCAR media book. You keep throwing Kyle Busch numbers at us in there. Why? They've taken him out of the point scoring. You don't have anybody else that's not in the league in there. We know he's done. Please stop. Sorry. I just had to throw that out there. Every week I go into the NASCAR media book and I pull up the loop data and I see Kyle Busch data, and it just makes me want to punch the computer.
Yeah, no, I get that. So one thing I'll say, Sean, is to the RFK stack point, fully in play. I didn't put Preece in mine, but only because I knew how much he'd be beating a drum on Preece already. So I felt like I needed to provide some sort of variety here. But like I don't know where I saw it. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but RFK's intermediate package is a little bit more grip over speed, from my understanding. And that is why the tire management is
coming to play.
Yes.
Which to your point, you said you didn't want just old people. Ryan Preece is one of the younger guys that is really, really good at tire management. And so is Chris Buescher. And Brad always has been. And this is why people that talk about they're leaving the team, Preece, Buescher, and Brad are all the same kind of driver, man.
Yes. Yes.
They legitimately are the same dudes in different car numbers.
So it's like an RFK stack is just, there's so much correlation there, it feels like, this week. Because there's so much similarity in how these drivers are going to approach this, and knowing that this is kind of a priority for this type of race. So I just feel like I'm going to have a really hard time not playing this RFK stack, which makes it extremely interesting to try to build out the rest of your lineup. But I threw out there John Hunter Nemechek as well. So like another secondary stack out there, like you said, is the Legacy Motorsports Motor Club. At the end of the day, John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones, another couple drivers that this could be a really nice fit for. And we see place differential and comparable tracks here. So
Eric Jones, phenomenal tire management. Darlington win.
More than the one Darlington win at that too for that Jones boy.
True. I'm just saying. I was trying to find examples of young guys, Mark, to your point about, don't just pigeonhole yourself. I don't know if I'd put John Hunter Nemechek there, but Eric Jones, 100%. Like,
yeah,
dude, I like your little value tier here, man.
So I don't even have Jones on there, but I just threw out John Hunter Nemechek and pointed out like the Legacy Motor Club, that secondary stack to go with like an RFK stack feels like a really, really good, strong approach. But then it's like, okay, how can I now squeeze in my dominators? And then who do I remove from that stack? Yeah, exactly.
To get the two dominators.
You have to spend up for those guys as well. So but Todd Gilliland, I think that's a great way to get up there. $5,300 for a pretty experienced driver on tracks like this can make their way through the field on the long run. So I feel like Todd Gilliland on the long run, another driver who might not necessarily abuse his tires, is in good shape. And then Ty Dillon, we're not going to see anything extraordinary. He's not even going to finish on the lead lap. But if he goes from 34th to 25th at $5,000, that is what we're looking for. So
I dig it. I did go Priest again, not because I want to ride Sean's coattails, but to give him some props because he has been beating that drum and it's worked. And when we overlap, things go well. So I threw that out there. Look, Zane Smith has been getting it done. The speed has been there. That is another young guy that knows how to take care of his equipment, and that goes back to the truck series. We've seen it. So give me a little bit of Zane Smith love. I'm riding that train. It's been consistent for us the last 6 weeks. I'm not fading it. I know he's had a couple of bad luck here there with instances, but the speed's there. And because we are on this whole tire management thing, give me SVG. We just talked about it, but SVG, Heim, level playing field, they get a fresh start with the other guys. Give me some SVG love, man.
Yeah, truly.
I'm with you on Retzloff too there, Mark. Retzloff's been kind of a fun little jam for us the last 6 weeks.
The speed. It's just like all of a sudden the speed is consistently there. So they figured something out at Viking Motorsports.
They got talented drivers right there, and they're outperforming the equipment.
Yes. So something got said. They were doing a special with Viking Motorsport, and they were talking about finally having a good driver or whatever. And I commented going, the team fronting like the driver isn't getting more out of the equipment than they ever have before is funny to me. Parker Retzloff liked the comment. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Shit.
That's
nice. That was pretty ballsy of him to go out there and hit the like button there.
So just as
he knows it. Look, he and the team know it's true. There's a reason his name is floating around the garage more. It's because of what Sean just said. Sean called this 3 months ago, Sean? I mean, after the first couple of races of Retzloff doing well, you made the comment of, he's just completely outdriving the equipment. It's kind of fun to see.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And also, the equipment, I'm not sure if you guys saw any clips from the Door Bumper Clear podcast this week right there, too. But they had Chris Rice on that show of Colic Racing. And actually the topic of Parker Retzloff and Anthony Alfredo's good runs at Sonoma was brought up. And then Chris Rice brought up a real interesting point about the equipment that the Viking Motorsports cars are ex-Colic Racing O'Reilly equipment right there.
Huh.
Oh,
interesting.
That is interesting because the last couple of years, Colic O'Reilly equipment wasn't terrible.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of equipment that can easily compete for top tens with the right drivers in it.
And for the record, I still think Chris Rice can EAD. Not a fan.
But either way, I thought that was an insightful point to bring up.
It was insightful, 100%.
So getting back to the sleeper and value discussion right here. So Mark mentioned about the Legacy Motor Club stack and the RFK stack. Well, the good news is on DraftKings, you can make that work and fit anybody you want as that last driver right there as far as salary is concerned. So it is possible there.
But you only get one Dominator, I think, is Mark's point.
Yep. So if you're looking for a secondary one, you might need to cut somebody there.
You might need to, but to my point, it's a 1 to 2 Dominator type of race versus a 2 to 3. So a one Dominator lineup is viable. It's in the realm of possibility.
Just have Hamlin qualify on the pole, and then you just do those 2 stacks with Hamlin anchoring the lineup, and there you go.
I mean, yeah, because he could, out of the 267 laps, lead 207 of them.
See, I would rather have Hamlin qualify 11th and do the same chase, expecting that maybe he doesn't lead to start the race, but as we get to stage 2 in the final stage, it's Hamlin's show at that point. And by starting 11th, maybe we get a little bit less ownership. Yeah. And because people are chasing the Dominators as guys in the first 2 rows, that's really what I'd like. Don't qualify poorly where you're chalky, but maybe qualify low enough, like 7th through 11th, that has people questioning. That would be incredibly savvy, because a lot of people, if they go then Hamlin that route, if he starts 11th, they're probably also putting in a second Dominator. So to get different, you play just him. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
But this is again, we're talking about a strategy that might not even exist. It just depends on where everyone starts.
It was so funny.
Such an interesting thing.
It was so funny when Finsty was asking you on air about how important qualifying is, because every time he asked me about it, I'm like, bro, there's only so much I can give you because qualifying is such a huge thing. And so when he was asking you about it, you're like, oh, it's massive. But so is which track we go to changes everything too. Like, we don't care about qualifying at Daytona and Talladega, but these other places, it's huge. And I was like, thank goodness, Mark, because otherwise Fincy's going to be giving me grief. So it was just kind of cool for you. You could have all these plans. And this is what got frustrating with my overview article is, I gave you guys that we love, and then they qualify inside the top 10. Well, we can't do the whole lineup that way because we don't have any place differential, which is why I love how Sean points out who have been consistent guys to not qualify well and get us consistent place differential. Brad Keselowski comes up a lot. Zane
on the
Smith
road courses.
Yep. Zane, well, even before they started qualifying better earlier in this year, you pointed out they haven't qualified well. It's particularly Brad between the other 2 cars has qualified worse than Priest and Buescher, and yet he was finishing in similar spots, right?
But it's because those packages prioritize the grip over the speed, which is why they're also starting further back. So, and
something else to keep in mind, Mark, especially newer drivers or teams that are chasing speed, they will focus on race trim. So they'll sacrifice practice or setup for a qualifying run, knowing, hey, we got to get this car to feel better for Heim, SVG, all these guys. So they almost become gimmies for place differentials, right? Because we know a perfect example in my mind, Sean, Matt Kenseth back 15 years ago.
Oh, he was the absolute king of doing that right there.
If he qualified well, Mark, look out. You better put him in your lineup because he was a guaranteed Dominator. If he qualified inside, what was it, Sean? Like inside 12th or inside 7th, something like that. It was literally like he'd be there or he'd be 20th or 30th. Like that was the range. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It was really massive, but he would always be a top 5, top 10 contender every single race. And so it was almost like a gimme square for place differential. We used to see it with Martin Truex about 10 years ago. It was kind of the same thing with front row. So
I was going to say, even last year, Ryan Preece was probably the
perfect example
king of doing that too.
Which I would argue he was a newer driver with the team. So I'm sure they were focusing on what he wanted for comfortableness in the car. And see, someone like Hamlin doesn't have to worry about that. They already know what they got to throw in the car to have a fast setup for qualifying. So him working on this long-term or long-run speed and all that makes complete sense. And it makes me question why his teammates aren't doing it.
Yeah.
Briscoe last year is another perfect example. Remember, they were pretty fast, but their qualifying sucked. And then all of a sudden they started qualifying really, really well. but the racing was kind of meh, and then they kind of put it together.
Yep, that's absolutely what's going on. But really, though, you asked why have it more nailed down than the other Gibbs teams. Well, the way I see it is that a lot of the connections with the other Gibbs teams are still kind of newer, whereas Hamlin's worked with Chris Gale before, too, even having some previous stints in the O'Reilly series, too. So
that's right.
He has a lot of experience even with that. And then also there's just the fact that Hamlin's very particular about how he likes his cars and actually contributes to the setup notes himself, too.
Which we're learning Hocevar shouldn't. They just should set up a car for Hocevar and tell him to go drive it.
Yeah, in other words, take the Kyle Larson approach.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, after they started putting the Michael McDowell setup in the road courses for Hocevar, he's been a top 10 guy. I mean, I know he was 11th this week, but I mean, he's now qualified inside the top 10 in back-to-back road races since they did that.
Yeah. And the Kyle Larson approach, and he's talked about it. He just goes over there and tells Cliff Daniels, look, just set it up for me and you do all the adjustments. I'm just there driving it.
Yeah, he really does. And do you know who that reminds me of, though? Dale Sr. Dale Sr. would just adjust his driving for how the car was. He wasn't telling you, he would tell you it's this or that, but it wasn't the fine science that like Jeff Gordon and Ray Everham used. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or even you want to talk about Kyle Busch. He's also very particular about his setups, too.
Yes.
To the point where he even tells the crew chief, look, you're setting it up this way. Don't argue back against me.
Because he needed to be able to feel it in his butt, right? And I am really disappointed that we didn't get to see Kyle continue on outside of a car that didn't have practice time and you didn't get to drive with your butt like you used to. I mean, every driver, Jimmy Johnson to Hamlin, all these veteran guys have said the same thing with this low sidewall tire. They can't feel the car the same. So NASCAR, as a fan that's tired of seeing the flat tires and the bullshit of getting the cars off the track, get rid of the damn low profile. They look good on a street car. They're not meant to be on a freaking race car.
Yeah, truly.
Stagger's cool on a race car. It looks stupid on a street car for all those people that like to do their tire stagger on their cars. Look cool.
Well, let's talk about something that we aren't going to stagger too long with, and that's our core fours for DFS this week. So let's quickly get on into it right here. For the DFS core fours that I have, we kind of talked about it already, but Denny Hamlin at 11,000 on DraftKings, 14,000 on FanDuel, most expensive driver on both sites. And then, the rest of my core four is, that RFK stack we just talked about right there. So Chris Buescher, 8,700 on DraftKings, 9,500 on FanDuel. Brian Preece at 6,700 on DraftKings and 6,200 on FanDuel. Now, the last one, okay, I did kind of lie a little bit right there, but it is the case on DraftKings that Brad Keselowski is the last driver in my core four right there. But for FanDuel specifically, I got to go Heim time right there. He's only 6,700 right there, and that is a much bigger difference right there, enough to pivot me towards Corey Heim over Keselowski on FanDuel.
I like those. I think the RFA stack it's definitely in the realm of the optimal conversation even before qualifying happened. So, but I did Hamlin. I threw out Larson too. So this is if you were to take that approach where you're playing two dominators. And if you do that, you got to fit someone in under 6K. So Todd Gilliland, I'm throwing him out there as my pay down play. Over Ty Dillon, I think Gilliland has a little bit more upside, get you possibly into the teens, maybe even a top 15 or top 20. And then Ryan Preece. Again, I didn't even throw him out there in my lower tier options, but to all of the points that you guys have made, $6,700 on DraftKings. That's criminally underpriced for how he has been driving this year and what type of performance he could put up on a track like this weekend.
I'm digging it. Mine's pretty boring. Hamlin, Larson. Of course, I'm going Heim time. And after talking up SVG tire stuff, SVG. The thing I like about this particular lineup is I don't think it's going to be super chalky. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know that Heim's going to draw a lot of attention. He might, but I think he's priced high enough that it might skew people away. And I don't think people are going to be chasing SVG. I really don't. So I think I can get away with being a little chalkier with Hamlin and Larson. And since I really kind of dig them this week, and for the record, depending on what we see from practice and qualifying, I could absolutely pivot from Larson to Reddick or something like that. Or even Briscoe.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's get into our theoretical too early lineups for this week's race right here. So for me, the DraftKings lineup that I have set up currently, it looks like Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, Zane Smith, and Ty Gibbs. So that's how the DraftKings lineup is looking for me so far. And
Gibbs could be an interesting one. JGR.
I felt like if you get a JGR car for just cheap enough, get enough salary, I want at least one Gibbs car in my lineup. But 2 is even better than 1. So give me both Hamlin and Gibbs in that case. For FanDuel, I've got Hamlin, I got Chris Buescher, I got Ryan Preece, Corey Heim, and then that leaves me with enough salary to get anybody that I want. So I decided to end that lineup with Kyle Larson as well.
And honestly, I think the more I'm thinking about it, you could do like maybe a lineup on FanDuel and a lineup on DraftKings. And the FanDuel lineup is where you pay up for your 2 dominators, and the DraftKings one is where you do the 1. I think that might be my approach. But DraftKings, I put down currently Hamlin, Larson, Buescher, Chastain. So again, Ross Chastain, I've talked about him a little bit earlier, but I do think he could be overlooked a bit here. Preece and Gilliland. And then on FanDuel, Hamlin, Larson, Bell. You can get 3. And I don't know. Like, I feel like on FanDuel, it might, because there's a lot of other guys priced up in that territory, it might be okay on FanDuel. So it's like Hamlin, Larson, and Bell. I can squeeze all of them in the same lineup and then, complete that with Chastain and Gilliland.
Interesting. Very interesting combos. Rich, do you have one for us today?
I don't. No offense. I hate the too early ones because I get too, I don't know. It messes with my head when I go to put a lineup in later because then I feel like I'm second guessing my first shot and I hate it. So I apologize, but I'm not good at those. And I feel like I just mislead us. So I pivot. I appreciate that you let me pivot, but I pivot.
And I think that's a valid concern to have is if you think it messes up your process, like, to be honest, we hammer that with a, we said that 200 times tonight is just, it's too early really to get locked in on anyone at this point.
I know the guys I'm looking forward to watching, and I'm going to expect a bunch of them to qualify. This is why I've asked the wife to start finding some qualifying lines because I want to start betting some, but I can't find them. I know a couple of guys I follow on Twitter do, but I'd love to bet, poll top 5. They have some of those out there. I just haven't found them. Bovada doesn't do it. I'm not in a legal state, etc. So I don't want to get, because I know me, it's just like the Heim thing. Then I get too tied into it and I consciously recognize my bias and I overcompensate my bias, which doesn't help anyone. We tell everyone to remove the name from the number, right? For football, that sort of thing. It's the same thing. And this is where I've got to be careful. That's why looking back at the bet for 10,000, I should have told Jen, throw a couple bucks on it. Why not? Instead of just being so adamant. I know anytime I talk in absolutes, it's a problem. And I straight up did an absolute. Nah, got no prayer. Different car. This was trucks for sure, whatever. And, we saw how that played out. So I'm with you guys, though, on your builds. I like the idea of both the Legacy and the RFK stacks. I definitely want to find a way to use Heim and SVG because I think their mid-tier pricing is decent enough. But to Mark's point, I think it's going to force me to either get real cheap like a Ty Dillon, Cole Custer maybe, something like that, depending on where they qualify, in order to get a Larson, a Reddick to go with a Hamlin. It's going to be hard for me. I'll put it out there this way. I want to build around Hamlin, SVG, Heim right now. That's where my plan is, where I don't really care where those 3 qualify. I feel like they're contrarian enough on Heim and SVG that as long as the finishing is there, it doesn't really matter. And I'm expecting both to be top 10, top 12 finishers. So if they qualify 7th, does that really matter at their price, right? And Hamlin, of course, like I said, I'm pretty much all in on. So then I'm going to balance out the lineup based on what makes sense from a place differential standpoint and an ownership standpoint.
Fair enough. That's a good way to outline it. If anything, this kind of demonstrates our different approaches that we can each take towards this race. And that's a valid approach too. Waiting until all the data is out and then just going from there.
I thought about it for football. I hammer this for football all the time. Take in all the information, but don't react to it, right? If you're going to react to anything, react to a team's actions, not their words, right? So if I'm going to react, I need to react because the guy qualified 5th instead of 35th or vice versa, right? That's an actionable item for me. And look, I'm a whore. I take my process. It's a bit of your guys's and some of mine. Like I have taken what you guys do or what makes logical sense to me that I feel like I wasn't doing, and I've applied it to mine. And so I know that I get kind of tunnel vision and hell bent. And so it's just like my rules for football. I have these rules to prevent myself from making mistakes, right? And they may not be rules everyone else needs to follow, but they're the ones that prevent me from doing things that I have found have not been good towards success of playing, like I told you guys before the show, I'm only doing 1, maybe 2 or 3 lineups at most. Usually it's 1 per race. Sean, 2 years ago, I was telling you I was doing like 5. I couldn't figure out what to do. I was all in my head, right? And now I'm forcing myself to hone in using the criteria that Mark's kind of outlined, taking the information we talk about on the show and applying it. And I don't know, for $1 lineups, it's been freaking successful, to be honest with you. I mean, I cash more than 50% of the time at this point.
That's a great stat right there.
I'm just saying, I'm basically breaking even so far on GPPs on $1 lineups. Like, if this is now for 2 years, it's been this way, right? So something like I'm not doing what Mark's doing, but like Jeff has talked about getting the practice and understanding your strengths and weaknesses. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Truly. You got to just know that for success sometimes. So
know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Play to your strengths and manage around your weaknesses.
And particularly be aware of your blind spots and know when you can, like you said, pluck from someone else's process to cover those blind spots a little bit.
And I'll be frank, I have to do that with you guys. I have had when you two mention a driver and I'm not on them, I get real uncomfortable. Now, maybe I'm pretty steadfast because there's something I see. Okay, let's use the McDowell example last week. I think last week's McDowell example is perfect. You both were really hammering McDowell, and I said I was just lukewarm. I get it. Now, he ended up top 10. Excuse me. But what was not the talk on our show, but what was the talk in NASCAR circles? Top 3, top 5. And I kept saying, I'm not seeing it, right? Top 10, I can. Well, what did I do? I didn't chase the top 10 bet because it was too juiced. I forced a top 5 bet that didn't pay. And I'm mad at myself for that. Now, I did have a bit of a blind spot. He was great for DFS still. However, then I almost let it poison my mind, for lack of a better term, right? Because now I'm forcing a bet because I'm like, crap, I had a blind spot and now I'm trying to overcompensate. Instead of just going, all right, these guys have a point. I'm still lukewarm, but they have a valid point. Let's throw them in a DFS lineup where it makes sense. Stay away from the juice top 10 bet. Don't go forcing any other bets just because his name's Michael McDowell and you want action.
Yeah, truly. So there you go. Good example that you put up there. But how about we go forth and transition right towards the betting part of the show, since you did kind of touch upon that right here. Betting core 4 winners that we got. So let's see here. It's loading a little slow for me. There we go. Denny Hamlin at plus 320 for me. Tyler Reddick at plus 550. Kyle Larson at plus 600. And then give me Chase Briscoe at 12-1 odds in order to win this week.
Love it. I'm pretty boring. Give me Hamlin, give me Reddick, give me Larson. A little hidden thing. It's more of a McChicken bet. I love the Briscoe call, though, but I'm going Hocevar. It's coming, guys. It's coming. We saw him run well at Michigan. We saw him run well at Nashville. It's coming. Not everybody's been here. We know he's going to be spending a ton of time iRacing and simming because that's what he does. So I'm going to throw a little love at Hocevar.
I like
25 to 1 odds for Carson Hocevar on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. So pretty nice odds over there for him too.
Yeah, to be honest, Sean, I had to tell you on the Chase Briscoe plus 1,200 bet. I feel like that's a nice payout for Briscoe, who's got a real shot here. And Reddick, Bell, I feel like I'm not talking about these guys enough in DFS, so this is probably going to be my strategy and getting a little betting action on these two.
Love it.
And then Kyle Larson at plus 600. You know, at that point, I feel like Hamlin and Larson are the two favorites. Larson to get plus 600 versus Hamlin's plus 320. I'll throw that in there knowing that maybe I don't place a betting winner on Hamlin, but I've got him all over the place in my DFS lineups.
You know, it's interesting that you pointed out about Hamlin and Larson being our two theoretical favorites because, boy, does DraftKings Sportsbook think Reddick's more of a favorite than Larson is right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I think given the speed and maybe, you know, again, to the point in the chat about the whole Chicago narrative, probably just, you know, we could see a lot of money coming in on Reddick because it's in Chicago. You have a lot of Chicago fans, you know, buying into that narrative. And so that line is really, you're not getting a better payout just because there's a lot of money already on Reddick.
Yeah, Reddick's at plus 550, Larson's at plus 600, according to DK Sportsbook right there. So it is pretty close.
It's like, do we agree with that? You know, it's like maybe Reddick should be around Bell and plus 750 or plus 800.
Yeah, I'd say if I was setting the odds, that would be where I'd place Reddick right there.
I think he's lower because I think the money still comes in on Reddick. People are still riding the Hamlin versus Reddick type of thing, and so I think they can get away with offering the lower odds and still get the bets. And I think that's what.
Well, I think that's what I think is happening. But my point is, I personally believe that he should be, if we're not considering the market money aside, maybe plus 750, plus 800 around Bell.
He's too low.
Chicago bias is putting that line closer. Like we could probably see it creep into plus 450 by the time the weekend comes around.
I don't disagree, and I agree with you. I think it's too low. When I saw the lines posted, my first thought was, man, 550 is awfully low for a guy that struggled the last month, right? Like telling me Hamlin's odds were near that makes sense. The 350 is I'm probably chasing it, but we're getting to that line where I hate chasing a winner bet at that low. And if he qualifies top 5, it's going to get lower. But, man, all it takes is one bad pit stop, and his live odds are going to be 6 to 1. You know what I mean? Like, it's just I'm really struggling drinking the juice these days at these 300, 200 winner bets. Like, the problem is Vegas is hitting on them, right? Like, they're getting away with it because they're hitting on them. So, I'm with you guys overall.
So, all right, let's round it out with some other bets and picks right here too. So I have a whole big list right here too, and that includes a couple of different kinds of bets. I'm starting it off. I got some top 3 bets here, so I'm going with a little bolder with some of these calls this week. But Denny Hamlin top 3 at even money, I would actually take right there, as well as Kyle Larson top 3 at plus 180. So give me that right there too. Another bolder top 5 call. Rich did it last week. I'm going to ride this kind of bet for this track this week. Give me Chase Briscoe top 5 at plus 350 in order to get that done. Chris Buescher top 10 at minus 110. Carson Hocevar top 10 at plus 120. Give me Bubba Wallace top 10 at plus 135. Brad Keselowski at plus 215 for a top 10. We didn't talk about him much, but I actually don't mind a Daniel Suarez top 10 at plus 260 as well. And then give me some Hine time for a top 10 at plus 260. That's the approach I like with Corey Hine this week, betting wise. And give me Ryan Preece top 10 at plus 450. I think that could be pretty possible too. Now, I got also 2 group winner bets as well here, too. DraftKings Group B winner between Blaney, Elliott, Briscoe, and Byron. Give me Chase Briscoe at plus 250. DraftKings Group C winner. That's between Gibbs, Busher, Hocevar, and Wallace. Give me Ty Gibbs or Chris Busher to win that group. Ty Gibbs is at plus 150, Chris Busher at plus 250. You can bet the same amount of units on both, and if either one of them hits, you will still profit right there. Give me top Ford right here between Ryan Blaney at plus 120 or Chris Busher at plus 360. Another case where you can bet the same units on both and then end up profiting. And then give me Denny Hamlin as the top Toyota at plus 160 right there. And McChicken bet of the week, well, Steve shouted it out earlier there, but Bubba Wallace to win at 28-1 odds on DraftKings Sportsbook right now.
You got me sold on the Briscoe bet. I should have yelled it. Sold. I'm sold on the Briscoe bet. Just throwing that out there. My bets, I'm keeping them concise. Like I said, I was going to try to do Heim top 10 at plus 260. Wallace top 10 at plus 135. Priest top 10 at plus 450. I don't want to chase any more top 10s than that because that's a lot of long shot money going after 3 top 10 spots. My McChicken, Hocevar, I mentioned earlier. Give me Hocevar for the win. However, really like that Bubba Wallace call by you and Steve. I really do. That's solid. So give me that. And then I'm like I said, I'm sold on your Briscoe top 5. I'll tail that.
Oh, yeah. The Briscoe top 5. I love the odds there. Absolutely love it.
I like Briscoe top 5 as well. And it seems like we're all sold on Hocevar, Bubba Wallace, and Ryan Preece and placing bets on these guys for this weekend because I got all 3 of those guys top 10s, plus 120 for Hocevar, Wallace plus 135, and Preece. Preece, is that can't be right. Preece plus 450 for a top 10?
Yeah, as it stands currently.
That the value on that to me.
Hit that line early, folks. Hit that line early. That line will not be there come Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's criminal in my opinion. And my McChicken bet, it's a top 10. Todd Gilliland plus 1,800. If we see Todd Gilliland qualify, maybe 17th, 18th, again, this is someone that can make it on the long run. And if it's one of those races where all of a sudden we only have 16 cars on the lead lap, Todd Gilliland's in play at 18-1. So give me that as a long shot bet here for a top 10.
That is spicy, but I like that.
I love it.
There's a couple of interesting names for top 10 bets this week, really, too. Like if you go past the obvious drivers, then you get towards more of those middle ground drivers. There's a lot of names I wanted to include here, but almost didn't because then it'd be so many bets. But that's just because I think this race is kind of wide open for top 10 bets this week here. So, I mean, even Eric Jones, he's at plus 260 right there. Same odds as Corey Heim. You mentioned about your love for SBG earlier, Rich. His top 10 odds for him is plus 450, and Zane Smith's plus 500, Riley Herbst plus 550. A lot of interesting names that can be in play this week.
Look, this is wide open. I'm very excited because we haven't been here in 7 years. We know the teams have had speed here. They're bringing a tire package that definitely was impactful to the race at the 3 tracks it was used at. Like, there's a lot of cool storylines this weekend. So this should be fun. I'll be curious. And we get longer practice. Yes. I know I get excited about practice.
Boom.
Although, thumbs down for not being on Prime because being able to rewatch practice over and over as much as I want, anytime I want, was really, really nice. Not going to lie. I could take care of everything, turn it on, dogs distract me, whatever, bloop, rewind it, turn it on. I was catching all the interviews. Like, I felt like I was on point when I got to watch practice at my leisure. Just saying.
He was feeling in his prime while watching Prime.
I was. Prime had me feeling prime, not going to lie.
So,
well, gentlemen, apparently we got a dog mess to clean up. We got somebody that's being a puppy pee pants. So, we've already taken this too long, probably due to me. But, gentlemen, it was great to be back with all 3 of us. If you don't know, there is a Mexican Batman out there. I highly recommend everyone check it out.
I saw it.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
There's something cool. something
Tying
cool
guys
about
up to the street poles.
yeah, it's great, man. I'm sorry. I'm all for the vigilante justice. I'm fine with it. Seeing guys duct tape to light poles makes me smile. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does. So I'm all for the Mexican Batman. I just need to know, is he got a lot of gadgets? Is he martial arts trained? Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Is he a big, massive human? Like, the dude is tying up like multiple people to poles. Like, I need some background on this guy.
Or, just like Batman himself, he's keeping his secret identity well hidden.
It's some rich drug cartel.
He's a failed professional wrestler who needed to still get use out of the $300 outfit.
It's Nacho Libre.
So we're not talking about Jack Black there then.
No, I don't think so. Well,
Okay.
Gentlemen, it's been fun. Big shout out to Mark and Sean. Please follow Mark at DFS_Marlin. Mark, you got final thoughts? It looked like I cut you off from saying something there. Nope.
No.
Please give
like you said, it's always great when all three of us are on. Everyone brings different angles. I feel like we're firing on all cylinders right now. It was a profitable weekend last week. I think it's going to be more profitable this weekend.
Let's keep that momentum rolling. Give Sean a follow on X at Sean E247, SEAN E247. Don't follow Fantasy Bosco. It'll just piss you off. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Jeff Mans and the whole crew at Fantasy Guru. Big shout out to all the guys that are getting it done behind the scenes, front of the scenes. We got the draft guide out there. Baseball's kicking off. Hockey's finally wrapped up. The basketball's basketball's wrapped up too, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. All that's wrapped up. But don't worry. Fancy still got content out there. Jorge Pucks has still got content out there. Canadian Football League is kicking off. They got that going on. So for all you Canadians, Canucks out there, don't worry. We got you covered. I just see our boy MG is posting bets out there. I think on PGA. I'm not 100% sure. So, hey, check us out, fantasyguru.com if you're watching this on YouTube. Reach out to support. Let them know what you're looking for. See if they'll hook you up with a discounted package, man. Give us a shot. Other than that, I'm Rich Maletto. That is Sean Engel. That is Mark Hogan. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Till next time.